This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Hello, welcome to episode 132 of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda. In this episode, I will take you through my knitting and cardigan spinning also this episode antics of the last 2 weeks before going into Layercake, where I'm introducing the latest pre-order, which is for a brand new dress called the shirt dress. But first, knitting and spinning. Spinning a little bit, let me first share my knitting with you. You have seen already that I was working on a Fair Isle jumper that I decided to steek when I started knitting. So I've given some extra stitches in the middle front that I've cut through. I've steeked the jumper now, and rather than adding and edging some kind of button band, I decided to go a different route. And it's partially because this is a relatively thick knit. It's like a DK, and in order to get even close to gauge, I had to go down 2 sizes in needles, so it's knitted on 3.5mm needles instead of 4. So if you then steek that and fold over the raw edge like this, you end up with quite a bulky fabric. And then of course you're going to fold that over the other half, either through button bands or by putting them on top of each other. And I all felt it was getting a little bit bulky. Of course, if I make the button band wide enough, then the 2 button bands can just sit on top of each other, and I just then have a double layer of fabric. But I didn't like the idea of interrupting the pattern of this Fair Isle with a wider button band. So my solution has been to knit an I-cord that has started at the bottom here, all the way at the top, around the little collar and down the other side. So I have an I-cord running along all those edges. And I came up with that idea before I finished this collar bit. In the original, it's just a little bit of a slightly standy up, collary type, cowly type collar. And of course I was going to have that same effect, but cut open. So I didn't want to end up with a square edge here. I didn't want to add a button band to that, like I said. So what I did was I I used short rows at the ends of my rows here, and then as a result, of course, I get kind of a curved edge rather than just a straight edge. So that has worked really well. And what I did was I ended up cutting open the jumper to here, where I'll open that up so you can see. I steeked the jumper, I knitted the jumper up to and including this pink band. So if you open it up, you can see that the little bit of folded over fabric finishes here at the blue edge. And then I knitted back and forth rather than in the round. After steeking the jumper, I knitted back and forth to create these rounded edges. So I then decided that, well, actually, if I just put a ribbon to finish off that raw edge on the inside, which I'm keen to do. Actually, I'll open the whole thing. It's easier to show you because now you've seen what it's going to look like when it's closed. So if I finish this with a ribbon, like I normally do, then that ribbon would finish up here. And if I wear it open like this, then I see the inside of the knitting. Don't like that. I don't think that looks very pretty at all. And I know that leaving it like that would be enough of a reason for me never to wear it, because I'm awkward like that. So I've come up with an idea. It started with first choosing which of the ribbons that I already have I could use, if there was one, to do the edges. And I have. I've chosen this one. very similar color to that yellowy orangey that I've got running through the jumper, which was one of my added colors because the original colorway didn't have any oranges and yellows in them. So I'll have that ribbon attached to the cardigan like this on the inside, and that in a lovely way finishes the raw edges. It hides the raw edges of my steek. I then get that, of course, running. So I'll drop my ribbon. So I then have the effect, of course, of coming to the edge here. I will fold it in a little bit, make it look neat, but my ribbon will finish something like here. Now, of course, I can then run it around the collar, but I'll still end up looking at the inside of my knitting when I've got it hanging open, and I don't like that. The other thing is that, of course, especially when I wear it open, I really have the knitting sitting up against my neck. And I figured that it would also not be a bad idea to cover that bit with some fabric so that it won't irritate me or make me too warm or itchy just because of the positioning of the knitting. I'm not that wool sensitive, but having things more tightly around my neck always makes me really warm. So in that respect, I only ever wear shawls when it's quite cold, or I wear them around my head like I'm doing now. So I've got some ochre herringbone fabric left, and boy, does that look amazing, because it's got the same colors in it against the ribbon and against the look and feel, which is slightly retro-ish, of my cardigan. So I'm going to take a thrown away bit, an extra bit, cut on the bias like this, so I've got maximum movement so I won't get folds easily, and I'm going to cut a shape that probably starts a little bit lower here, widens and covers the whole knitted area of the cardigan when I wear it open. I won't line the whole thing because I'll get far too warm, but I can cover the inside of the collar, and then I'll still have the ribbon running down. So then it was just a matter of deciding what kind of buttons I was going to use. And my first thought was that actually I would make in the same blue yarn, I would make little loops and then have buttons on the other side. But again, I found that too much of an interruption of the look and feel of the cardigan. And then my husband said, well, why don't you go for something like the kind of Norwegian clasps, the more traditional Norwegian clasps that you see on Norwegian cardigans that are in color work. So I looked at a load of those, and they all are quite ditzy. So I then remembered, of course, where do I all get all my ribbons and my buttons? From Textile Garden. And I thought, let me check if Textile Garden has a closure that I like. And yes, they do. Here's a photograph. They're probably going to be delivered at my house today. But this is a photograph of the little clasps that I've bought. And they're only 3.5 centimeters wide, so they won't stand out too much. They will look like relatively subdued little buttons, I hope. So I've got those coming, and then with the band and the fabric and those little clasps, the cardigan will be done. And so in terms of what has been the kind of interruption or delay in finishing this, was really figuring all of that out and thinking, how am I going to finish this in a way that will look good with my style of clothes, that I will enjoy wearing, and that will stay in keeping with the kind of look and feel of the cardigan. So that's it. That's that gone one finished, and hopefully in the next episode I will be able to show you a finished cardigan. Now I'll move straight on to what's hanging next to it, which is a store-bought cardigan that I've had for years. I apologize for it looking a little bit tatty because I've just had it on a heap on the sofa next to me because I've been checking measurements and checking gauge and etc. on my knitting to make sure that I'm knitting it to the same size. Because what I decided to do, this is a linen cardigan. It's got a very simple shape, and the size of it, the measurements of it work very well with my size. It's a way for me to wear something that is relatively fitted, not big and oversized like I normally tend to wear. It's relatively fitted and it looks and feels great. And that's partially because of its drape and because it's so thin, but also the proportions, they just work well on me. And I hope you can see it. It is just a straight arm line. There is no armhole, no decreasing. So it's very relaxed shoulder with a straight arm line, sleeve line, and then just a little sleeve. I think it's about 3/4 lengths on me. No cuff here. Little cuff at the front and back with a little split. The back is slightly longer. I'm going to keep that all the same. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to put pockets in. I'm going to decide that later on because I've started with the back. And at the top, there's just a sloping shoulder line. So if I would follow the straight stitches, then there's about a 3-inch drop from the shoulder to the inset of the sleeve. And again, in terms of sizing, that works really well on me. A V-neck in the front, little buttons, and it's got these 2 little pockets. I'll show you the back as well. The back is quite interesting too, because the neckline is, you can't really see that when it's on the mannequin, but the neckline is a very shallow V, and then there is a little heart knitted into the pattern here. So it's a very shallow V-neck in the back, and again, I will copy that. So I wanted to make this out of a very fine yarn because I want the look and feel of my version of it to be similar. It doesn't have to be the same, but to be similar to this. And over the years, I have on a couple of occasions bought some very thin, fine cashmere on eBay on cones that is meant to be machine knit. Never did anything with it yet. I thought its time will come. I very often buy yarn that way, not because I just want to have it. I've got yarn like that as well, but yarn like the very thin cashmere on cones is something that ends up kind of percolating. It's always in the back of my mind, and whenever I think of different knits and new knits, I consider that fine cashmere again as to how to use it or what to use it with. Now, the other thing that I've done on a couple of occasions is with the cashmere ombre 2-ply from Art Yarns that I've bought a couple of times and knit with. That is a 2-ply yarn that is, it's actually 2 single plies kind of held together, but very, very sparsely twisted to keep them together. And you knit with that as a normal single yarn. And I've knitted with that a couple of times, and noticing how little twist there was in the ply of those 2 strands, if you like, I have on 2 occasions already split a hank of the cashmere 2-ply ombre, or cashmere ombre 2-ply, to get a single ply cashmere and to be able to knit with that. And I've got a jumper that is still not completely finished. I think I literally have 1 cuff left of a sleeve to do, which I must do somewhere in the middle of this or after this, because it would be such a lovely jumper. And of course we're going to be coming out of winter and it will not be worn again for a winter. So I need to consider, I need to put it back on and see if there's something that I don't like about it. What is it? Is that what's keeping me back? I don't know yet. But anyway, I held that together with Yak Blend 2. And I think I also worked into it, I must check, I think the mohair that Art Yarns do in the same colorway I used as well. I need to double check. I'll bring it back in and show you. But anyway, one of the reasons that I was splitting yarn was because of that. And I split another ball or another hank. It's hell on earth to split those cashmere hanks. And then I discovered that actually Art Yarns do a single ply cashmere. It's not sold in the UK at all. So I must have a chat with Millie and say, can you order me some, or would you be interested in introducing it maybe? Because it is wonderful to knit together with another yarn. And that's what I did to choose the combination of yarns that I'm knitting with for my little cardigan. Very long story shortened. I've taken one of my little cones of cashmere, very fine cashmere. This is a 2-ply that runs 1500 meters per 100 grams, and it's very strong because it's for machine knitting, so it doesn't split very easily at all or break very easily. And then I have combined that with a very, very dark, imagine very high cocoa percentage of chocolate, and the very, very dark brown that you get, that's the color of this yarn. I think I've got 5 50-gram hanks of this that I bought off eBay ages ago, and it's just been sitting there, and that is a single ply cashmere. So I'm holding that together with this purple, a very blue purple, it's kind of blueberry color, purple machine knitting cashmere, which is thinner even, and the two of them together make the most glorious color combination. I've looked at the color chart of the factory that weaves my linen for me, and they don't seem to have a blue purple and a dark brown that's dark enough to achieve this, because this would be a stunning color to weave in linen. But what I can show you is what I have instead. So I think I just started a new row here because I needed to tink back a stitch for a couple of rows, because what happens regularly with this yarn, because I'm holding 2 thin strands together and I work on it in the evening, is that I'll only pick up one of the strands of yarn, or only half knit it, whatever. So the result of it is that I then have a little loop hanging of one of the colors in the back, and every couple of rows I will check my work, see if there are any loops, and if I see a loop, then I'll mark that with a stitch, and when I next pass that stitch, I'll drop it down and pick up the 2 strands, if you like. So I do end up with proper double stitches of the both of the yarns throughout. So I'm just about at the sleeve level of the back panel. As I said, the back panel is slightly longer than the front. And I mean, look at this color. I hope it comes across on screen, because it is that blue purple and that dark brown together, and it's just such a gorgeous color together. It makes it kind of tweedy. Of course, sometimes the brown and sometimes the purple is in front, and those 2 colors, they just, because they're a little bit clashy, they shimmer together. They're stunning. So I can recommend, if you find yarn in those colors, try and knit with them together, because it's gorgeous. So I've just about reached the sleeve inset at the back panel. Of course, I don't have to, that was one of the things I was checking yesterday, I don't have to decrease at all for an armhole. So I'm just going to keep going to this level, and then that will be low enough to decide how I'm going to slope, how I'm going to divide up the stitches to slope the shoulders. And I'm going to do that little V-neck. I'm going to do that little heart, knitted in heart. I love that idea with little eyelets. So, and it is, I've been knitting on it for maybe a week or a week and a half. I'm not sure how long. It's slow going because I think it's 165 or so stitches across. And there are 36 rows for 10 centimeters, so it's actually quite similar to the gauge of socks in that respect. So it's a slow knit, and on purpose, because I wanted to interrupt my obsessive knitting. A project like this gets super obsessive for me. I wanted to have a bit more relaxed knit, and with this, if I'm in a different part of the house and this is lying somewhere, I'm not constantly thinking, ooh, Let's do a couple of more rows. Let's make the combination of the next couple of colors, which is what I was doing here all the time, partially fueled by insecurity about whether I was going to get my color combination right and whatever. So a project like this will get really obsessive, and I don't want to do any obsessive knitting at the moment because there are so many other things that I want to do, one of them being spinning. So this is just being worked on when I'm set down in the evening, when I'm tired, or when I'm watching some TV. Then I knit on this little cardigan and it'll get done eventually. There's no rush with it, at least not yet. There's a fair possibility that once the weather improves that I all of a sudden get the urge to want to wear it and therefore knit a lot more on it. But at the moment it's all kind of calm and relaxed. So in one of my gorgeous Trava and wool bags, of course, from the lovely Susanna. And then I come to my latest project, which is again a bit of a story. I go, as you know, to the Scottish borders every year to accompany my husband who fishes for salmon on the Tweed. And when we were there, not this past autumn, but the year before, there were two gorgeous young sheep in the meadow. They were still classified as lambs at the time. They were less than a year old. And they are called Valois Blackface, I think. I'll put the proper name below and I'll put a photograph of them there. And they have the most gorgeous, long, incredibly crimpy fleeces, beautifully curly hair. And when I was there, they had earlier in the year already their first cut. So because they have to be cut twice a year, their fleeces grow so fast. So their first cut, their lamb cut for want of a better description, is very likely the softest wool that they'll ever produce because they were so young when they were growing part of it. Now, that wool is not particularly known for spinning and knitting to make garments because that very crimpy those very crimpy curls are quite coarse. And as they get older, the hair is going to get coarser. Of course, the wool is going to get coarser. So I took the two fleeces that the owner of the place that we stay, the owner of the estate, had, and he just had kept them. He didn't know what to do with them. They aren't worth anything for selling. And I said, oh, give them to me. I'll skirt them. I'll wash them. I'll spin them. I'll knit them. And you will get something that is made out of the first clip of your beautiful little sheep. So I had gone through the motions of skirting and washing the fleeces, but I'd never gotten around to spinning them yet because of projects like that where I get so involved that I think, gosh, I really want to spin, but let me just get to the end of this project and then I'll get my spinning wheel back out. And then I'll engage in the next project before I finish it, and so forth, and etc., etc., etc. So I finally, this past week, when I took Friday off, last week, which was my birthday, I took it off. I had worked my behind off all week in order to be able to stay at home on the Friday. I succeeded, and because of that, and having a 3-day weekend, because of kind of stalling this project a little bit, because I hadn't quite decided yet what to do in terms of finishing it, I finally did some spinning. So I hand carded some of the wool that I had at home. I did some spinning, and of course, because I haven't spun for years, when I got my spinning wheel out, I could only find the spinning wheel with one of its bobbins on, and I knew I had 2 more bobbins, but I didn't know where they were. So never mind, I'll find the bobbins later. I'm going to do some spinning first. So I spun until that bobbin was full. And that was an interesting experience, the spinning. It was quite difficult to spin a uniform thin yarn because of the difference in the quality of the hair, the individual strands of hair in those fleeces. So I did my best. I then thought, well, I do want to apply it because it was too thin in places, I believed, to knit. I didn't like the difference between the thick and thin. there was too much thick and thin variation between the thick and thin. And I thought if I apply it, that will at least partially even it out. So I had to find my other bobbins. So I turned my craft materials upside down. Thank goodness I found a second bobbin. And I thought, all right, I'll go just with the 2 bobbins because I can Navajo ply from the single bobbin onto the second. So I Navajo plied my single bobbin of hand spun into what then of course becomes a 3-ply. And I plied all of it. I had about 85 grams, and I put it on a hank so I could soak it and thwack it. And after all that, I counted the number of rotations I had in my skein, and of course I know how long my skein is, so I worked out that in terms of weight I ended up with approximately an Aran yarn. It doesn't look very Aran-y. You can see, hopefully, hold it against a dark background, and you may be able to see that there's still thick and thin in there. There is a slight unevenness and bobbliness in the plying, because of course I haven't spun and plied for years, so I was relearning as I went. Loved it, by the way. There's going to be more of that. But this is the yarn that I ended up with, and it doesn't feel very soft. It's gotten a lot better with soaking and thwacking it. I soaked it in a very mild soft soap, and then thwacked it and dried it, and it has fulled a little bit, which is great because it makes it easier to work with and it gives it a better hand. But when I knitted a swatch with it, I just, oh, actually I think I have a swatch to show you. Let me show you the swatch here. And at the bottom of the swatch, I'm knitting with 3.5mm needles. I'm a very loose knitter, so normally that would have been 4 or 4.5mm. So 3.5mm needle, and you can see that the stitches are quite open. You can kind of see through the knitting. And I didn't like that, but I also didn't want to go any further down with my needle size because I figured it would not be a very nice pliable fabric at the end. I decided, because of the feel of the wool, that it would be best suited for a hat, a very simple 2x2 rib hat that you literally just pull over your head, pull down to your eyebrows kind of thing. So I decided to hold it together with a thin mohair. It's one of those mohairs that has a core of silk, and holding it together, when you hold the 2 yarns together, it doesn't make much of a difference. It's a very thin yarn, of course, this. And when you knit it though, you can see at the top of the swatch that those stitches look nice and closed. They look nice and they feel a lot better because of course this adds a lot of soft fluff. It closes any openings between the stitches and it feels a lot better. So both of those together, and the fact that of course this is a pale grey, also helps even out the color variations in my hand spun, because some of the pieces of fleece are a bit more grayish and other ones are a lot more yellowish. So this is the hat that I've knitted so far, and the fact that I didn't bind off those stitches is that I tried it on and it's just now a nice beanie. It comes about halfway down my ears, but I'm going to go back a little bit. I think I have started decreasing a little bit too soon. I'm going to knit it a little bit longer and then do the same decreases. So I'm going to write down how I did these decreases because I really like the rhythm and the look of them. I'm very happy with the look of the crown, for want of a better description, but I need to start it a little bit later so that I end up with a hat that you can really, and I've got plenty of yarn left, only 85 grams to start with. Then I want to be able to pull it further down to the point that it really goes down all the way to your neck, covers your ears completely, goes down to your eyebrows, because of course I'm going to send this to the owners of the estate where we do the fishing, and I want it to be a hat that can be worn often in their cold months. and that they can always then, of course, fold up if they want something a little bit less deep-seated. So that's my first effort. But the other thing that I found out, I had a couple of bits of the single ply that I spun left over, and I used those to create the figure of 8, a couple of extra figure of 8 ties around the hank, so that if I was whacking it and manipulating it, I would not have lots of loose strands floating around in the bowl that I was using. So I had, of course, the ends of the hank, and I made 2 figures of 8 in order to keep the hank very neat. That all worked a treat. But what I had noticed, because of course those single plies ended up getting the same treatment of washing and whatever, was that the most bunchy bits, the thickest bits in those single plies felt unbelievably soft after washing and thwacking and drying the yarn. Almost cotton-like rather than wool-like. And I thought, hang on a minute, that doesn't feel at all like the coarser, very crimpy curls that are the ones that really stand out when you look at the fleeces. And when you see the sheep, what you see are those really crimpy curls. So I realized that, of course, the crimpy curls are like the guard hairs that are sitting on top of the much more downy kind of fiber that is kind of hidden in between the curls, and I just carded everything together. I took out the toughest bits, but apart from that I just carded everything together and spun it like it was. So those curls have an incredibly long staple length. They are like 6 inches long easily if you stretch them out, and they're also the toughest hairs. So what I'm going to do, because I've got plenty of yarn or plenty of fleece, it's not precious and it's not going to be used for anything else. I'm going to sort the fleece and take out the bits that are the downiest and softest, so the downy hair that is closest to their bodies and that of course keeps them the warmest, and check whether those are all completely separate hairs that just have a shorter staple, or that they are really mixed in with the curls. I don't know yet. I haven't checked that yet. So I'm going to spend time this coming weekend separating those out, leaving those thicker curls aside, and whether I'll do something with those or not, I don't know yet. Maybe even felt it. I'll decide later. But I'm going to try and create a nice amount of the very soft, downy undercoat of the sheep to spin with that spin finer, which is going to be easier because I've got a little bit more experience now and those long guard hairs won't be there. So I'm going to spin them finer, hopefully even find my third bobbin, so I can then ply it into a 2-ply and then knit my next project of this yarn, of this fleece with that. So keep you posted. Hopefully I will, at the next time, be able to show you, first of all, this hat with the crown re-knitted, but also at least a swatch of some spun yarn that just uses the undercoat of the sheep rather than everything that's growing out of their bodies. So that was my third project, and that is all I'm working on at the moment. Have not done any more, not substantially, just a tiny little bit. Tried out a couple of different yarns and did a little bit of crochet to see how they would crochet up. More about that in a different episode, because I really don't have enough to show you. So the crocheting is not completely off the table, but I haven't done enough to show you here and now. It's still happening in the back of my mind, just not as per usual, and especially with the spinning now also there, not enough hours in the day to fit it all in. I'm going to finish this one, keep working on my lovely cashmere cardi, and keep spinning and knitting the beautiful Valois curls, or maybe no curls and just the undercoat, and report back on my findings of that at the next episode. So that was it for knitting and no crochet. Let's jump into Layercake and show you more of the glorious easy dress in 3 colors of linen and 2 colors of a very, very fine wool. Enjoy. The shirt dress. I thought I'll show it to you first just by itself, worn without anything else. Well, underwear and tights and shoes, but without other garments, to give you an idea of its length and its shape. This is a size 2. I am on the cusp in between a size 1 and 2. I think my bust is about 43. The bust of a size 1 in these is 50 inches. The bust of a size 2 is 56. So that sounds like a ridiculous amount of extra space, but this is what that looks like when you see it on a body. So yes, I've got lots of positive ease, but the idea is that this is a slightly oversized garment, loose and comfortable, so I can wear it like this without tying anything, or I can tie it in the front, either just very loosely so I don't lose any circumference, just to get rid of the loose ties, and then just leave it all loose and wide the way it is now. You can also see that it's just about knee length on me. I'm 5'10", so that gives you an idea as to where it goes when you're shorter or taller. I can also tie it tighter, and you can see that kind of automatically you then get these folds that run up to your shoulders over the bust, and of course those folds will be slightly different depending on the size of your bust. My bust size is a D cup, to give you an idea. This is what happens to the back when you tie it like that, and of course the pockets that are in the side seams are being pulled forward a little bit. And then the third way of wearing it is to tie it in the back. Either, again, very loose, I'll tie it loosely first, so that it just kind of, those ties just kind of hang again without being pulled too tight, if I can manage it. Of course, tying a bow behind my back, it's a bit awkward. But yeah, here we are. Have I got a proper bow? Yeah, I do think I have a proper bow. So this is just pulling it a little bit, but not really tight, so that you can create a little bit of a waistline. But in the back, you can see it's still kind of hanging down and still kind of lots of wriggle room. But of course, I can also go tighter in the back. So I stick to just fitting it loosely around the bra line underneath the bust. And now this is even more awkward, trying to do this while you can see what I'm doing. So bow, there we are. Bit tighter, as you can see. And then just by pulling the dress down with the pockets, then the folds in the back kind of redistribute themselves. You can pull it back a little bit or just pull it forward with the pockets, but you get an idea of what it then does both here and in the back. It is cut in a way that the front, which doesn't have any closure, won't gape. It's high enough in relation to your bust that it won't end up gaping open, but it doesn't have any closure on it. Of course, you can give it a closure. You can put a nice pin or something decorative, or wear it with a shawl if you want to close it higher. You can even wear like a bow, for example, a little scarf that you tie into a bow around your neck, so you can make it look more closed, but we haven't put any closure on it. And by stopping that quarter placket here, it won't gape, not even when you tie it, because of course the ties are much further down. So as you can see, it gets pulled up just ever so slightly when I tie it like that at the knees, but it's still kind of knee level on me. And I will now start combining it, of course, with other layer cakes, start styling it with other layer cakes, both tied and untied. I'll keep playing around with the ties so you get a good impression. One last thing to point out is that it's got a very high closed double cuff, which allows you to fold it over by at least 4 inches without even coming close to the hemline. So that allows you to cuff the dress like this, give it a 3/4 length sleeve, either wear it with something underneath that peeps out, or just by itself when the weather gets warmer. Or of course you can wear something underneath that you fold up as well, like a shirt, for example. So onto the outfits. A pair of breeches in the same black currant stripe. So going for a matching outfit, top and bottom, which kind of turns the dress into a tunic, and of course still emphasizing that length of the dress, and then having a slightly leaner look with breeches rather than some of our other trousers underneath. Let's add a smock and see what that does. Sticking with the same colorway again, but this is the solid black currant rather than the black currant stripe, and throwing a smock over the top, size 2 smock over the top of the size 2 shirt dress and those same breeches. You can see then that the front of the shirt dress is about 6 inches longer than the middle front of the size 2 smock, but the points of course stick out and stick further down, so you get the playing of the different levels and the different lengths. I will change the shirt dress now to a different color, so we're going to start seeing some contrast. So this is the first of the 2 wool dresses that is included in this pre-order for the brand new shirt dress. And this one, I've called it just the grey check wool, but it's not actually, it doesn't have a lot of grey in it, some, but also it looks like yellow and an undyed and something slightly purpley and orange. It's got a lot of different colors in it. I've put a close-up of the colors in the newsletter. I need to check whether I put a close-up of the colors in on the website. If not, then it should be on there now by the time you see this. It's a really nice small check. It's a super, super fine floppy wool. It's proper kind of suiting wool, I think it's called, but it's really, really smooth and quite silky in its feel. You wouldn't believe it's wool if you weren't told that it's wool. It's more like a cotton, I guess, a mercerized cotton, because it's got that smoothness. So it's definitely a worsted spun wool. It's just gorgeous. I could not pass them up, and I thought I need to make a shirt type garment with it, and that ended up being the inspiration after doing the shape of the crofter top that you see there. There are 2 crofter tops there, and after doing that shape I thought, oh, actually that kind of shoulder line and that sleeve line is a great start for a shirt dress. So here we are. So a wonderful color again with the black currant. There's blackcurrant fabric, new blackcurrant fabric on its way, I can assure you that. So there's more of that coming. And I'll pop on that smock again, so you can see the contrast of the blackcurrant smock against this wool, and then I'll start playing with other colors. So with the blackcurrant smock, you can see even better how this grey check takes on almost like a mauvey kind of hue when you wear it with these kind of colors. So I'm going to grab an even brighter purple and change the rest of the outfit, but keep this dress the same to show you that purplizing effect. So this is Nightshade, a fabric that we're actually, a color that we're sold out of. So the nightshade garments that I have left in stock are the only ones that are left. This is a smock in size 2. These are a pair of breeches. Of course, our drop crotch trousers that are not quite as low as the baggies. Pair of breeches in the long, large size. And as you can see with this kind of purple, then you can also recognize why I've called this gray check rather than purple check or lilac check, because now it looks more gray. With the black currant it looks less gray. With this it looks a bit more gray, and it therefore tones down the rest of the outfit a little bit. So I think really interesting to see how this check behaves against different colors. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to bring in some brown and then some turmeric as well. Size 2 tabard in cloves, which of course has got the purple in it that is also in black currant. And then still with the nightshade slackers and my grey check wool dress. This is how they combine, and this is how a size 2 tabard looks with the shirt dress. So you can see the splits on the side of the dress more close, more predominantly, and the slight line that you get over the fact that the shirt dress, because it's oversized, of course the shoulders drop a little bit, so you've got a slight line where the sides of the dress, the hemline, looks ever so slightly longer than the front. It isn't, that's just because of the dress dropping down like that. But I promised you turmeric, so here it comes. Turmeric baggies, which they're my own baggies, so I've worn them a lot. So they don't look as pristine as some of the other garments that I show you, but still going very strong. One of my all-time favorite colors. I keep grabbing it again and again. I don't get bored or tired of it. Bit like blackcurrant in that respect, and of course magpie, one of my other big favorites. And you can see how different the outfit looks and how the impact of the turmeric is on both the dress and the tabard. So I will now swap this tabard for a turmeric smock, so you can see even more turmeric against the grey check of the dress. Turmeric all the way with my grey check dress. And if I see this on myself and I look down, then I can really see those very narrow, well, turmeric-y, orange yellowish, very fine lines that are in this check jumping out at me. The other thing that I've done, you can see that, is I've got the ties of the dress just hanging down, not specifically to show the ties, but to show you the effect of wearing the dress without any ties underneath something like a smock. So it's not like all of a sudden that dress looks so big. It works beautifully underneath the long, low armholes of a smock or a tabard. Let's bring in a different color dress. Here's hay. Hay is one of those linens that I don't know what it is. Andrea and I talk about it sometimes, where we find that different colors of linen have a different feel, even though they're the same weight and they are the same weave. Sometimes even colors that have been woven together where only the weft is different and the warps are the same. Then if you compare the fabrics, they feel different. And this is one of those fabrics. This is a cross weave of natural undyed linen and the color that's in chartreuse. So that's why the chartreuse is then being pulled back by the natural linen color. So it's a color that goes really well with colors like lava and turmeric and chartreuse, of course, as well. But the feel of the linen is different. It feels drapey somehow. It feels kind of, when you feel it without looking at it, you think, oh, is this the heavier linen? And it's not. It is the mid-weight linen all three of the linen dresses are the mid-weight, and the wool is a similar weight to our mid-weight linen. But the feel of this fabric is different, and it's one of the reasons that I always offer it as a duster, because it just has the most amazing swing as a duster. In fact, it's a good idea to show you what a duster looks like combined with the shirt dress. So let me put it on. So this is the hay duster that I was referring to, and then in combination with the hay shirt dress, tied in the front this time. So I've got lots of ties because of course this duster ends up having ties as well, which I could close, give you an idea what that looks like, and then with that same same color underneath in the hay dress. Have a look at the comparison of lengths so that you can see if you've got a long duster at home, because this is the long length as you can see in the back. Then you have an idea of what the shirt dress does in terms of length, because the shirt dress only comes in one length. We do the 4 sizes, but just in one length, and you can see that the long duster in the front is about 2 inches shorter than the front length of the shirt dress, just to show you how they compare. And of course the sleeves of the shirt dress stick out from under the 3/4 length sleeves of the duster, and I can then of course fold this over and fold it over the sleeves of the duster should I want to, like this. So you get the long length, the long split of the duster sleeve sticking out still, but the cuff of the shirt dress very nicely grabs the front of the duster sleeve. Very effective way of combining them. Let's move on. What am I going to do next? I think I've got another duster to show you. Yes, a mid-length duster, medium-length duster, to see what that is like against the length of the shirt dress. Medium-length duster over the top of the shirt dress. As you can see, I've done the collar differently. With the previous option, I had tucked the collar of the duster underneath the collar of the shirt dress. In this case, I've put the collar over the top of it, and I've got it closed, but of course I can open it up. You can see how the lengths compare between the long duster and the medium duster, and then worn with the shirt dress. So it also shows you a lovely combination of how the hay color goes with something as bright as the large bright check. I will now take it in a different direction. I'll keep on the hay, but I'll bring in one of our other very classic colors, charcoal cross. Here is a pair of palazzos in long large size, worn with the same dress in the hay color, and a size 2 mini tabard in the same charcoal cross weave to pull the whole outfit together. Of course I can show it to you, I'll take that off in a second. I can show it to you just the shirt dress and the trousers and how they go, but I wanted to bring in some more grey so you can see what a wonderful color hay is in combination with charcoal cross. So let me take off the mini tabard, because let me show you this first without taking it off. The other thing that I've done is I've tied the dress differently. Instead of having it tied in the front like I had with the dusters, I've tied it in the back, but very loosely. So you can still see the ties kind of just peeping out underneath the mini tabard. You can also see how the mini tabard just about covers my hips. So if with a dress like this you want your hips covered, then a mini tabard is a good option. So taking that off, here we go. Just the dress, kind of very loosely and worn in a very relaxed way, with just those ties caught in the back but not tied up in any way. If you prefer to wear your shirt dress like this, then of course that's a wonderful option and an alternative. So I'm going to swap the palazzos and show you a pair of the slate cocoons instead, in combination with this lovely hay color. So here are a pair of the slate cocoons in the large size but the regular length, to show you what they look like, the cocoons, if you wear them cropped like this and then over a dress like the shirt dress. Again, the shirt dress just worn in that same loose way that I was just showing you before. I think it's time to go to the next color. Let's have the blue wool. Next color, blue grid wool. I've called it blue grid because there are like white, tiny white lines that intersect what is otherwise a blue and black tiny micro check. So blue and black check with these white lines that kind of go, it's like a slubby white that crosses the black and blue checks, micro checks. It's a very interesting fabric. Again, I was just smitten as soon as I saw it, and then once I felt it, like, oh my gosh, it's got that same lightness in terms of weight as the grey check wool has, but obviously very different color. And what I just discovered, first of all, it goes beautifully, of course, with very basic colors like black and white and blue and grey, like the slate baggies that I've still got on. But then what I discovered, because it is a bright blue, royal blue more or less, with a black check, I thought, oh, how does that go with our blue cross weave? Well, of course, I'm going to show you. Here it comes. This is a play suit in the blue cross weave in size 2 long. And look at it with the color of this blue grid wool fabric over the top in the shirt dress. Beautiful. It goes, it's like virtually identical. There's a slight difference, which of course is partially texture. And I thought I could then again tie this dress to show you what happens when you wear a layer cake underneath. Can you still tie the dress, and what does that look like? Well, I'm going to show you. I haven't actually tried this, so let's see if it works. Relatively firm tie, so it kind of really nips me in. And as you can see with this dress, I'm pulling it open a little bit, specifically to show the blue of the play suit underneath. But I could do the same thing again. You could close this up and wear something around it, or have a little pin if you don't want it to sit open. But you can also, of course, make that more prevalent and push it to be a bit more open. A little bit of steam, and of course it would sit right open like this. Of course, you can also wear it up if you like that look with a shirt. But it works really well to tie the shirt dress over the top of the play suit. And now, just because I can, I'm going to show what it's like if I would wear it underneath. Would that work? Let's see. Yep, works a treat. I am even still wearing the slate cocoon baggies, which I forgot to tell you. I've got the baggies underneath still, and then the dress underneath. I've kept the dress loose. Of course, because this is a size 2 play suit, and I was showing you size 2 smocks before. Of course, the way the top of the dress behaves around the armholes is identical in a play suit as it is to a smock. But you can also see that even with a pair of baggies as well as the dress, it doesn't add too much bulk, and you can comfortably wear that underneath. Of course it finishes at knee level, so it means that around my middle section I've got 3 layers of fabric now. I've got the baggies and then the dress and then the play suit. So a lovely combination, having these extra layers when it's cold out. And then of course when it gets warmer I can just pull the baggies out from underneath and wear the same outfit but without the baggies. So let's keep going. I have no idea what's next because I'm looking into the light. Oh yes, I was going to show you the blue of the dress, but then combined with like something in the brown spectrum, because blue and brown are really exciting colors to wear together as well. So I'm gonna lose the play suit and bring in some brown. This is Mixed Spice in a synergy duster, so a sleeveless duster, long length, so you can see again, like I showed you before, what the length does against the shirt dress, but also the effect of a sleeveless duster. The Mixed Spice is a cross weave of the blue that is in Magpie and this kind of tobacco yellowy brown that's also in turmeric. So as a color, it is really nice to wear against a blue because there's blue in this cross weave, and close up they really look magical together. So what I've also put on though is a black pair of trousers, because of course, since this is a cross weave of blue and black, there is black in this, and therefore black is a wonderful color to wear with it, as would be white, because of course there's white in here as well, but I've got white coming up in a minute because I've got the white the white shirt dress to show you still. There's one more check though that I want to show against this blue, and it's the large nude check. Here it comes. This outfit really shows you that the large nude check is quite a classic color combination, quite a classic fabric, strangely enough, despite the fact that it's got such big contrast in the check. I keep playing around with the dress and the ties. Had it tied in the front with the previous, but of course I can just let it hang, or if you don't want to see these and you don't want to tie them in any way, you could also just tie them back on themselves to shorten those flaps so that they don't hang out below the rest of your outfit. But you could also do, I've told you about tying it very loosely in the back, but of course, did I say that in the beginning? I don't remember now. You can also tie it loosely in the front, and that could be just a single knot like this. So black, beautiful color with the blue grid wool, as is the large nude check. Let's move on to the last dress of the lineup, the white linen. Starting off with white linen against the black of the slackers that I'm wearing, large long slackers, and then the dress, the shirt dress still in a size 2. And one of the reasons that I wanted to wear the black trousers with the white dress is to give you an idea of the opacity of the white linen at this weight. Many of you will be used to knowing that white linen tends to have a level of transparency to it, and there is a hint of it in our white linen, but it's literally just a hint, and it's only if you pull the fabric against your skin and show it against a dark color underneath. So if I release these, for example, then that effect already disappears and it's not a see-through linen anymore. So for those of you who wonder about buying anything in white linen and would it be see-through, it depends on how you wear it. Wear it away from your skin, it isn't, and if you wear it against your skin, then there's just a hint of it. So wearing it tightly with black underwear, you're going to see the black underwear, but only a hint of it. So I hope that alleviates any concerns about wearing the white linen by itself. When I was looking for different outfits to wear with the white linen, I thought, well, I'm definitely going to show the black, but I also spotted the pair of winter white wool trousers that I still have in stock. So I also want to show you an all white outfit. Here it comes. Winter white wool palazzos and the white linen shirt dress. As you can see, because I've tied it back and totally back again, like fittedly back again, you can already not see the palazzo skin, the difference between my skin color and the winter white palazzos. So again, unless you go for very sharp contrasts in color, the white linen is not transparent. I love this as an outfit. The winter white wool is only a smidgen darker in color than the milkiness of the white linen, because of course the white linen is not optic white. It is white, it hasn't been bleached, but there's still a hint in it, and it's quite milky in color. A little bit like wool, some of the wool colors that end up being quite milky, and obviously also the winter white wool of the trousers. All right, this white will of course go with so many other colors in the collection, and I've shown you so many combinations already. So I'm going to finish with something that's very typical for me. I'm always layering up the hilt, so I have to give layering the shirt dresses a go. Here it comes. Well, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting this. So I've kept the white dress tied in the back. Then I've put the blue grid wool dress over the top, tied that in the back as well. This is the way it looks. Two dresses tied in the back over the top of each other. Get a little bit of a lump here where the bow is of the white dress underneath. So if I was wearing this, I would probably just knot the bottom dress rather than have two bows on top of each other. But hey ho. Then I have folded the cuffs, folded the edges of the sleeves so I create a white cuff, and of course I've put the collar of the white dress over the top of the blue one. And then last but not least, I've stuck the blue pocket into the white pocket, and that ensures that of course the side seams and the splits stay lined up, which works extremely well. But also somehow the white dress looks like it's slightly longer than the blue dress. It kind of peeps out a little bit, which I love. I don't know exactly how that's happened. Maybe because I'm wearing the blue over the top of the white, so the whole thing gets lifted a little bit. But I love the effect. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that everybody needs to now buy two shirt dresses. It just shows you as to how you can play with garments like these. If you've got an oversized white shirt at home, then try it underneath your shirt dress and see how the two work together. So same goes the other way. If you've got like a cropped little shirt, then try that over the shirt dress and see how that works. So it's just to encourage you to play around with your wardrobe as always. Try different colors together, try different outfits together. And even though I didn't combine any white with the blue grid dress, the wool dress, when I was showing that, I've kind of redeemed myself by adding some white to it here right at the end. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for sticking with it throughout to the end, and I will see you again soon.